In this session, we want to discuss HyperV Guest Integration Services and HyperV Enhanced Session Mode, two services that are offered in the virtual machine environment. Let's start with the guest integration services. HyperV Guest service gets installed within the VM when the virtual machine is being installed. Integration services gives integration between the local services and the underlying host machine. In Server 2012, we can see here an image of the integration page. And we have guest services here at the bottom of the list, and it's disabled by default. There are other integration services that are offered, as we can see here: operating system shutdown, time synchronization, data exchange, heartbeat, backup, volume, snapshot. And you get to select the services that you want HyperV to offer to the virtual machine. What does guest services do? How does it help you? It gives you the ability to copy files into running virtual machines using a process that is out of band to any virtual network connections those virtual machines may have. What do I mean by that? This simply means that you can copy and update files inside the virtual machine, even in situations where those virtual machines are disconnected from any virtual networks. In situations where they are connected to private network switches or located on networks that are isolated from the underlying host's virtual LAN or HyperV network virtualization. In order to use guest services, as we saw just now, all you need to do is to enable guest services on each VM. And you do that by simply clicking the checkbox by guest services within the settings of the virtual machine. You can also enable guest services from within PowerShell by using the Enable VM Integration Service commandlet. We want to turn our attention to Enhanced Session Mode. Now, in previous versions of HyperV, redirection from the local resources to the virtual machine setting only incorporated the keyboard, the mouse, the machine screen, and even then with limited copy functionality. Starting with HyperV Server 2012, we can now redirect local resources to the virtual machine session through the virtual machine connection tool. You can see here on screen, we have two columns. One, the virtual HyperV session, where you can only use the screen, the keyboard, and the mouse. Then on the right-hand side, you have Server 2012 R2, where you now are able to redirect a whole set of things. Example, audio, printers, clipboard, which is copy and paste, smart cards, USB devices, drives, and so on. This enhanced session mode feature is enabled by default in client HyperV, but it is disabled by default on HyperV in Windows Server. How do we use enhanced session mode, and why do we use enhanced session mode? Under what circumstances? A number of circumstances. If you need to troubleshoot a virtual machine that does not have a network connection, then you might want to use enhanced session mode. If you want to copy and paste files to and from the virtual machine in the same way that you would do with a remote desktop connection, you need the enhanced session mode. If you want to sign into the virtual machine using a smart card, that is another area that you will need enhanced session mode. If you want to print from a virtual machine to a local printer, you need to have session mode enabled. If you're testing and troubleshooting developer applications running in a virtual machine that require you to use USB and sound, then you're going to need enhanced session mode if you're not using remote desktop connection. Now you can configure the enhanced session mode in the HyperV Manager settings. You simply select the HyperV server you wish to configure and then go into the HyperV settings, and on the left-hand pane you can see enhanced session mode policy, allow enhanced session mode, and you simply will tick the box off, allow enhanced session mode. So remember, it is not ticked off by default in server, but if you're using client HyperV, it will be ticked off by default. Your support operating systems. What are the operating systems that you can use this enhanced session mode with? The supported operating systems are Windows Server 2012 R2, Windows 8.1, Windows Server 2016, Windows 10. Those are the operating systems that you can use. So remember that in previous versions of Hyper-V, the only way to copy files to and from the virtual machine was by using remote desktop. Now we have the enhanced session mode where we can simply turn that on and we are able to redirect local resources to the virtual machine in the same way that we could have done with remote desktop connection. We're now going to take a look at how we would configure guest integration services and enhanced mode. Within the Server Manager dashboard, we want to click on Tools, HyperV Manager. Within HyperV Manager, we want to right-click on the virtual machine. We're going to right-click. We're going to click on Settings. In the left pane, we want to click on Integration Services. And you can see here that Guest Services is not enabled by default. For integration services, you get to select the services that you want Hyper-V to offer to the virtual machine. To use the services you select, you have to install them in the guest operating system, and they must be supported by that guest operating system. In previous versions, you did not have guest services. Now in Server 2012, we have guest services, and to enable it, you simply click on guest services, click on apply, and click on OK. We next want to look and see how we can configure the enhanced session mode. To do this, within the Hyper-V Manager console, you want to click on Hyper-V Settings. Then in the left-hand pane, you want to click on Enhanced Session Mode, and you want to click on the checkbox to the left of Allow Enhanced Session Mode. So we're going to click the checkbox. And remember that enhanced session mode allows redirection of local devices and resources from computers running virtual machine connection. So we want to go ahead and click on apply and select OK. This is the end of our session, and I want to thank you for listening.